Discipline and punishment is not the same thing. And I'll say it again for somebody who requested it. Discipline and punishment is not the same thing. Two fundamentally different things. Yeah? Now talk to me, ladies. I've seen a lot of people shaking their heads. When you think about discipline, what comes to mind? Structure, teaching, correcting an action, setting limits. Making sense?
Yes.
Structure, correcting an action, setting limits, and there was one teaching. And actually, when I looked up, some of the popular texts that we use around kids, and one of the things I decided to look up is the word teach. And when I use Esau, anybody has Esau? Uses Esau? Yeah. See a couple of people shake their heads. The word teach appears in 109 verses in the Bible. 109 verses. But it appears much more than that because some verses have multiple use of the word teach. And the Strong's Concordance says that teach means this: tell, instruct. Yeah. But guess what it also says it means? Model, but from this context, it uses the word think, commune, as part of the definition of teach. Isn't that interesting?
Yes.
So what is to commune with someone? What's to commune? Communication, to talk, to listen. Because it's just a kind of two-way interaction, right?
Yes.
Because when you commune, it's not you just giving information. It's also that person giving you something back that involves a process. And also use the word think, which I find that one really kind of, it's like, wow. So if we are effective teachers, then we are effective in encouraging and engaging the mind of our children if we are teaching them. That doesn't happen with a do as I say. Yeah? So discipline involves setting limits. And setting limits is such a critical point in terms of effective structuring of our children's lives. And we can avoid so many problems if we just set limits because the kids don't know. They depend upon us to put the structure in there. And even though they may bang against the wall, if you remove that structure, they are in disarray. And sometimes the banging against the wall is what is that, people? That's them just trying to figure out if the wall's actually there. They're actually trying to assure themselves that there is the secure box that they can function in. But in order for us to set limits, we need to figure out what the limits are. We need to have a rationale for what's going on in our own heads. And I think a lot of times as parents, we resort to the do as I say because we haven't taught it out fully. We may have a gut feeling or sense that this is right, and we may very well be on target and that's cool. But we probably haven't taught it out in terms of how do we convey this to our 6-year-old, our 7-year-old, our 17-year-old. So it's just easier to resort to the just do as I say. Don't bother me, don't ask me, just do as I say. But that doesn't solve the problem. Because it means that we haven't communed, we haven't taught them, we haven't engaged their minds. Because the other point I want to make is this. Parenting, the object of parenting, or the objective of parenting is to create adults who can make wise decisions. In the absence of their parent whispering or probably calming them. That's what parenting is, You only have them for a very short time. Right now I have a nephew, he's 13, and I can't bear to think about the next about 7 years because he's gone. He's gone. That's the bottom line. And even though he says one of the things he wants to do is to take care of his auntie and his mommy and blah blah blah, the point is he's gone, he's going to have his own life. So it may seem while you're in the parenting role that it is forever with the stress for the one, but it really is a very short period of time. Yes. And our duty really is to engage their minds so that when they leave our presence and they begin to transition into society through school and all the activities we have them involved in, and eventually they leave our homes to start their lives, they can engage in discussion and make wise decisions, that they have those skills. That's what parenting is about. Not about us trying to live our dreams through them. Not about us trying to have someone finish business. We didn't finish school probably or achieve what we wanted to do, so we pushed them into it. Am I saying education is bad? No. Let me make sure I clear that up. Definitely not. But I'm saying that each child must find his or her own pathway. Whatever that pathway is. Of course, as parents, I always need to make sure I balance it. You need to make sure that your child is on track, doing what they need to do, they need da-da-da-da-da. But at the end of the day, that child's view and opinion, and that child must be allowed to be themselves and achieve their potentials. Does that make sense? Yes. So, when we talk about punishment, what is punishment? Hurting.
Send the message that you cross the boundaries, not to go over there. There's going to be some sort of thing. So kind of be truthful. You kind of want to let them know that they crossed the boundaries and not to go there, lest there be more pain, so they'll retreat. You know what I mean? So when you give that punishment, they go, okay, I know if I touch that stove again, I'm going to burn myself, so I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go there again.
That works.
Is that different from discipline?
I see it as payback.
Punishment is payback. I have a veteran when you make a point, need to take a point. Excuse me.
Punishment is sometimes venting anger.
Penalty. Venting anger. Consequences. Punishment, consequences.
Are you saying
No,
punishment
we having a little debate going through, and I love the
are
debate.
you saying punishment as physical punishment, or like just I won't let you watch TV for a week? What kind of punishment?
What are you saying?
When you say punishment, I see it as a physical thing.
Okay.
Right. So that's how, in my mind, that's how I imagine this right away is physical. I don't think that's necessarily that.
So punishment will also be, I don't know what culture, right? Yeah. I don't know what's your mind, I get licked. I get beat. Oh, my grandmother. I'm not saying it's either right or wrong. I'm just saying that here I'm acknowledging the fact that that's part of our culture. Now when we migrate to the US, we kind of have to do a little shifting around. Spare the rod and spoil the child.
Punishment, you don't have to spank them for everything they do. There are other ways to punish. You can't just spank them for something. They deny them of something they want.
Like my son, I was in pain with himself for a week. He did something, and that was really
So here's my differentiating marker. And you're right, that's taking away from. And so sometimes we mix up discipline and punishment. Punishment really attacks the core of who the child is.
Yeah.
While Discipline serves to correct a behavior
Right.
or instruct or guide towards a certain pathway. Could corporal punishment do
I
that?
think in some cases you need to do both. You give them the instruction, you speak to their intelligence, but yet you say, I love you, but I'm gonna have to punish you as a result of what you did. You know, you educate them, yes. Sometimes you have to apply the punishment. In my opinion.
Okay.
So with discipline, the punishment should follow?
It depends on the situation.
So there are two ways that we can teach our kids. We have the logical consequence of behavior. Logical meaning you put some limits in place. So for the sister here, it's taken away her son's cell phone. Because she knows that that is one of the things that he can't function without. Yeah? We have the natural consequence of stuff. You're sitting around the table, you don't want to eat dinner because you don't like what mommy cooked. Okay, well, head to bed. Brush your teeth, head to bed. The natural consequence is that you're going to be hungry.
Exactly.
And probably the following night, you probably will eat what mommy cooks.
The punishment should fit the crime.
So therefore, I have a little difficulty using punishment. Why? When I think about punishment, I think about inflicting pain.
Yes.
And the aim of discipline is not to inflict pain.
Correct.
The aim of discipline is training and guiding our kids into making wise decisions. Now, does that involve spanking sometimes?
Yes.
You be the judge of that.
Yes.
I'm not going to say whether or not that is right or wrong. What I'm saying though is that whatever measure that we use must have a particular teaching component. And if, as my sister says here, that is done in anger, that's one of the hallmarks of punishment. And not discipline.
But you don't have to be, I don't believe you should punish a child when you're angry. You gotta calm down. That was then it will hurt them. But never do it when you're angry. I just think it's required in some situations.
And we can play on the semantics of it, whether it's discipline or structure, whether it's discipline or punishment, we can play on the semantics of it. But I think the guiding point is this. One, if that particular consequence is not intended for guidance, but it's tending on venting your anger, then it's really about not disciplining the child. But it's about the release of that tension that you are feeling.
That's like waiting up all night for your child. If they have a curfew and they come in past that curfew, you've been up sick, worried, out of your mind. Your immediate reaction is to grab them up and, shake them or do whatever. It was like to say, oh, let me calm down. No.
Exactly.
I know, I'm just saying, this is, I got this as a child coming in from my mom. It's immediately, there's no, oh, no.
So these are some of the things I have here. Discipline is ongoing, it is structured, it engages the thinking of the child, it is designed particularly for the child. Because for your son, taking away the phone affects him. For another child, it's like, whatever. Take the phone, that's all right. So discipline is geared towards that specific child. It is done in the spirit of love. It is also age appropriate. For example, let's take it down to a child that's a year and a half. Particularly in the islands, we always have all these ornaments up. These little things that all these ornaments all over. It's after washing all those things every Christmas, I promise never to have any more. But if you have a 1-year-old, a 1.5-year-old that's walking around, that's exploring, that's the child's natural developmental stage.
Right.
If you have 1,000,001 ornaments, how fair it is to keep slapping that child and saying, don't touch? Does that make sense?
No.
So discipline must also be age appropriate. Does that make sense, Paul?
Yes.
It must be respectful of the child.
My son is 7 and my daughter is 11. And with them it's very interesting because we have this open conversation and we have to always talk and because